Radio Detox going full metal Bitcoin today. We've got Annonymal as our guest today. Welcome, Annonymal.
Hey, thank you for having us. It's a pleasure. Let's rock.
All right, we're gonna rock and roll the horns up. Whatever the appropriate hand signal is. We got the Nostr. We'll give
Well,
them all.
you can do everyone.
We're gonna rock and roll today. So, as we're getting into the podcast, we're recording ahead of time. So it's Tuesday, it's April 7th, it's 5 o'clock my time here in Arizona. And some things have happened today that are kind of interesting. Coin is pumping, right? It's above
Yeah.
72 right now, which is a welcome sight. It probably has something to do with the American president saying he's going to do a ceasefire, maybe at least for 2 weeks, with Iran. So Bitcoin apparently likes this. I'm sure everybody likes this because I'm paying $5 a gallon for gas here in Arizona. Maybe better times are ahead. We don't know. But we're going to get into it with a solid Bitcoiner. Anonymal is bringing people Bitcoin through heavy metal. And how did this come about? Let's just begin in the beginning. How did you get started as Anonymal? Who's in the band? All that good stuff.
Well, Heather, Anonymal is a very weird concept because I decided to bring my two passions in relationship to one another. That is Bitcoin on one side and heavy metal on another. Just for a context, we have a song called War Strategy. That is when the war in Ukraine had begun. So we composed this song and she is in our record. And in this song, we preach against war and preach that Bitcoin is a solution for this temptation in the world where governments only seek for power and control and all this kind of stuff. So it's a very interesting theme in the time that we are recording at this point.
Right.
Worried about everything because the war in Iran affects everyone in the globe in terms of money, in terms of jobs, in terms of future perspectives. But going to the past, I was working as a journalist related to this Bitcoin, blockchain, crypto stuff as my daily job, my 9 to 5 job. And when I got to know Bitcoin, it was something very important for me, especially because of the political and economical aspects of it. Not so much so a means of investment or making money or this kind of stuff. I never was drawn to Bitcoin because of that. So I started to learn about this internet, magic money, all this kind of stuff. And I worked a lot of years in the field as a journalist. But then I was possessed with this idea. How can I become unique in the space? Because as a journalist, I had many friends, many people that were so much better journalists than me. Of course, no problem with that.
I know
So
that
I
feeling.
was, yeah,
Yeah, I do come
I
from
had,
journalism, so yeah.
yeah, I had this idea. How can I be scarce? How can I be unique?
Mm.
And well, Bitcoin doesn't have a soundtrack very clear for me. Bitcoin has, of course, a lot of meme songs. People make cover
Yeah.
version songs, and everything is very funny. Don't pump it up. We gotta pump it. This kind of
Oh, yeah.
stuff. Okay, I like everything. I like the meme thing. It's very Nostr style and vibes and everything.
Yeah.
But I started to see that if I was the person that was going to place a soundtrack to Bitcoin, I thought that metal was the perfect soundtrack.
Yeah,
Of
Bitcoin
course,
is metal. Yeah.
yeah. Of course, this relates to my personal taste. I think that not everybody likes heavy metal, and for me, that's okay. I think people can have different opinions about if heavy metal is a good style of music or not. There are many people that has religious sensitivities. There are many
Mhm.
people that think that metal is something of the past, and nowadays we have different styles, mainstream, all this kind of stuff. But for me, Bitcoin has this very anti-politics message ingrained in it.
Yes.
Metal is the perfect soundtrack for this because we have the aggression of the anti-establishment rhetoric and all this kind of stuff. Metal is very strong in these terms.
Yes.
Also, metal can be melodic, can be beautiful, can be classic, can be acoustic. We can have it all. So we
Yeah.
can make people to think about Bitcoin in a whole different way, and that's what we are trying to do this year.
That's great. And some could argue and say Bitcoin's hip hop or Bitcoin's punk rock. So
Yeah,
it's in the eye of the beholder. I think Bitcoin is definitely metal. You know,
yeah,
it's definitely it is here to just grind it out. You know, that's the good part about Bitcoin. I think you it sounds like you came to Bitcoin like a few steps ahead because most people do get into it for number go up or you're a
yeah,
tech open source kind of person. But most people don't start out with Bitcoin being great for humanity, a war ending kind of thing. And that if we starve these central bankers, if we starve the system, if we stop overprinting the money and debasing the currency, we can't make up these wars as we go along. Like we can't keep printing wars. Basically, like we're printing money to pay for missiles that we can't afford. The country's trillions in debt. It's just ridiculous. And Bitcoin fixes this. I don't think people realize that. I think there's still so much stigma out there that Bitcoin is crypto, it's Trump. If you support Bitcoin, you support Trump, and it's bad for the environment, and mining is terrible, and AI is terrible, and data centers are terrible. And there's just so much FUD, so much,
yeah.
that nobody really takes the leap to understanding that Bitcoin can end war. Like it makes war unaffordable. So like the fact that you kind of came to it from that angle is really fascinating to me. And maybe because you're
Yeah,
a journalist,
yeah,
you get
of course. It all relates to me as a person. I was always someone that had this vision about politics. I was even my rock and roll and heavy metal taste comes from this because there is this
Mhm.
punk attitude towards it. God Save the Queen and Anarchy in the UK.
Yeah.
You have this history. I even wrote an article about Annonymal that is called Giving Bitcoin a Heavy Metal Voice, where I
Mhm.
trace something like this history. It all begins with the Beatles, with revolution and rock and
Yeah.
roll and drugs and everything. And it went to a punk rock thing that was very interesting, very, very nice. And this gave the space to the rise of so many metal bands from Black Sabbath to Led Zeppelin to Deep Purple, Iron Maiden, and all this kind of stuff that Metallica, all these things. So we can see a path here. And this idea that Bitcoin is not a get rich quick scheme, it was very important for me because I was not looking for an investment option or this kind of stuff because I
Mhm.
was broke. I didn't have too much money.
Right.
So I have not too much interest in, oh, if you invest this, you will have a return that. Because even if I
Mhm.
had $1,000, okay, if it went up, I would have $10,000, but that doesn't change anyone's life. So for me,
Right.
it was not all this. But when I first saw my first video about Bitcoin, it was a girl that was presenting it.
Mhm.
She had this Austrian economics channel explaining these concepts, and she made a video about Bitcoin, the coin of the future or the money of the future, something like this. And it was a 10 minutes video, very simple video, and it blew my mind in the first 10 minutes, and I was
Mhm.
completely absorbed by it. I became very interested in it, so I started to dig what else people were talking about it. Then I met the work of Andreas.
Mhm.
I think he's a great guy, regardless of he is being involved with Ethereum or not. I don't
Right.
discuss. But I think he made an incredible job as a Bitcoin educator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I consumed all his speeches about it. I was very, very with a hunger for this concept. And for
Yeah.
me, more about organizing a political riot. That's how I saw it.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people I came in after the Andreas Antonopoulos stage. Like my onboarding was like Max and Stacy and
Okay.
Simply Bitcoin and watching Max and Stacy on like RT and they had the Orange Pill podcast and like I think like by that time I think Andreas had kind of like he put out all of his books and his contents and he'd spoken and there were videos of him but I think he got kind of quiet after that And so I think like if
Yeah.
you came into Bitcoin consuming that content, I feel like you're more of a Bitcoin OG than you would be, not that it is a contest or anything, but I think that like there are so many people now who are making Bitcoin content and putting out books and podcasts. Like I think that he came out of a more pure time.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. His content was great. It is beautiful to see him speaking with so many few people in there, and there is 10
Yeah.
people, and he's preaching about it and explaining. At the time, Bitcoin transactions had the fees, but it was not something that was important for the transaction because Bitcoin was so cheap at the time. So it was a different. It's very interesting. The block reward, the war about inscriptions, all this kind of stuff, and
Right.
everybody's getting in there. We could not imagine that a few years ago. But this reveals that Bitcoin is a victorious concept, is a
Mhm.
winning strategy, and we are so grateful that Bitcoin exists. That's
So
awesome.
glad. And you get to make music to kind of I love that you bridge your passions where you're bridging the heavy metal music with Bitcoin because I like to bridge Bitcoin with yoga. So like whatever your passion is, there's kind of
Yeah.
room for your original, something you're making something that's scarce. We do have some, I don't know if you listen to any of it, but we have some hard rock and we have some metal music in this space. So are you a fan of anybody else?
Well, I always like to go to Wavelake and to see what people are doing.
Mm.
Of course, I like everything that guys do because I'm very eclectic. I
Yeah.
like all those styles of music. There is this guy, I think he's called Richard. I love his content.
Yeah.
I didn't prepare here to show you, but he has some great stuff.
Yeah, I think he's
I'm
teamed up with Quex and yeah.
yeah,
I think he
I'm
go
always to listen
go
to him.
ahead.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, I think he goes by Real Richard on Nostr, but I don't think he's been on Nostr in a while. You're big on Nostr. I see you on Nostr.
Yeah, I always publish. Anonymal is a very small project. We don't
Mhm.
have a huge success among Nosters or Bitcoiners in general, but we keep building. We have this mentality. We are not in search of an easy path to money or to glory or to fame or to anything. We
Mhm.
want to express what we believe. Of course, that we believe that we can have a very successful brand as Anonymal. But this is
Mhm.
not the main goal. The goal is to express, to create. And it's important to see that Anonymal was born a little before this AI explosion
Yeah.
because we launched our first song 4 years ago. ChatGPT
Mhm.
was not a reality. It's crazy to say
Right.
like that. Suno or all this kind of stuff. So we make our songs in the old way. We do not use AI. We are not against people that use it. There is no problem for me. I think there is a lot of space to use AI to express, to create things. But we do it in the old fashioned way with our guitars and basses and drums and keyboards and everything.
Mhm. I
And
love it.
it's very, very beautiful process to create songs. Our first song was called As Government Dies, and we started with the timestamp in the blockchain, the first Genesis block with the speech from Satoshi. Chancellor on brings for second bailouts for banks. It's a
Yeah.
very interesting quote. Of course, we cannot enter the band without it. As
Mhm.
our statement to the world was to sing what Satoshi wrote it in the Genesis block. I even want to even make a record or AAP in the future called Genesis block.
You got to hear yourself in the music. Like if you're a Bitcoiner or you're learning about Bitcoin, you're going to come to it. I think a little bit through culture. And I think the
Right.
people who've come to Bitcoin first were very into like books and podcasts, and so we
Yeah.
came to it through that way. And over the years now, we have this burgeoning Bitcoin music scene where you know people are either like yourself being explicit and making music about Bitcoin,
Yeah.
or they're using Bitcoin and Nostr. So they're using Fountain and Wavelake and they're using the podcasting 2.0 technology to get into this space where they can earn Bitcoin. And maybe they're not making music about Bitcoin at all. But it all
Yeah.
kind of goes together nicely. It's like we're all kind of supporting this ecosystem where it's like, I'll make a podcast, Anonymal will make metal music, and we're all going to find our people, our community somehow.
Yeah, and we need both instances because you can speak about Bitcoin directly, but people are not so curious or all the time talking about Bitcoin. You have the space to talk about other things, and it all goes in the same direction in the terms that we need a community that has many interests besides Bitcoin. We can love
Yes.
food, we can love workouts, we can love photography, we can love movies, we can love everything. But we also can love Bitcoin, sing about it, and there is no right or wrong in this. We decided to make our first record as something full Bitcoin related. All songs, sing about it, and everything. But in the second album that we are recording currently, not all songs are about Bitcoin.
Okay.
Not because we are regret what we did. No, we don't regret it, but we want to talk about other stuff as well, and
Yeah.
there is room for everything.
That is cool. Has anybody come up to you at all in real life or on the internet? Obviously, because you're anonymous, you're anonymal, so people probably don't know who you are. But has anybody come to you and said, "You know what? I got into Bitcoin because of your music"? Has that happened yet?
Not yet because of Anonymal, but a lot of people that listen to us are already Bitcoiners and they
Mhm,
really like what we do. Most
mhm.
of the time it happens like this because in metal community, we have, don't say it's a problem, but maybe it is. That is a complex situation because most of the guys listen to the same old bands. This is
Yes,
very is because people want to listen to Metallica. Okay, no problem. What is Anonymal compared to Metallica? Nothing. Okay, so Metallica is great, Anonymal is not. Okay, no problem. It takes too much time for you to make people to listen to a new band, to a new concept that it's a bit
true.
weird. So we didn't get to the point of having a heavy metal interested base to learn about Bitcoin through us because we are very
Mhm.
small yet. But of
Yes.
course, this is one of our goals is to bring people to listen heavy metal and then to learn about Bitcoin in the process.
I love it. That's cool because we really have kind of two worlds going. Where like
Yeah.
one of my gripes on Nostr right now that I'll gripe to anybody who listen to me, and I certainly don't want to bitch right now, but I'm always bitching about there just not being enough normal content. Like you get on
Yeah.
Nostr and it'll be the FBI's in the trees and chemtrails and number go up, Bitcoin stuff and Nostr dev talk, and somebody's talking about their Claude bot, and I'm like, we need just plain old, we need music content. We need people writing articles about freaking TV shows or something. Like we need normal content on there. So we need this. Like we need somebody to go, hey, that's a cool song. And then maybe they hear one of your songs on Fountain or Wavlake and it's like a normie song that's not about Bitcoin. And then maybe it kind of trails into the next song starts playing and maybe it's a Bitcoin song and they're like, wait a minute, what is this awesome anti-government like rawr, like
Yeah.
what is this music? Where they're against war and they mention Bitcoin? Like, it's kind of like it's that cultural sneak attack of like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I should look at this Bitcoin. Maybe it isn't just like finance bros and, maybe it's not just like trading, because it's not
Yeah.
trading, but when you're new to it, you think it's trading.
Yeah, that's perfect. You don't have to be so preachy over people because when people feel that you're only there to preach your ideology or whatever it
Yeah.
is, or really everything, people tend to go back. So you can
Hmm.
have your Bitcoin songs, you can have your more normal kind of songs, but the most important thing is to be true in whatever situation you are. If you're singing about Bitcoin, try to make as fun as possible, as educational as possible, to be interesting as possible, and you talk about other stuffs as well. But one other aspect that is very hard is that the world is very politicized at this point.
Yeah. Very
So every
divided.
you're right or left. So
Hmm.
Anonymous stands in the pro Trump or against Trump. We don't want to deal with that. We want to be
Right.
against all politicians. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's where we all are now. We can't trust any of them. We know we have something built in Bitcoin that will get us away from
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, but when we say like that, People always tend to think, no, you're a left wing because you're against Trump, because Trump is pro
Right.
Bitcoin. No, man. I can tolerate that you like Trump. Okay, I can think that Trump was better than Kamala. Okay. But this is not the issue among us. We have the opportunity to create a money by the people for the people. We can have a
Hmm.
very healthy relationship to money. This is so much more important than anything that any side of this fight can do for us.
Yeah.
This is my view. Of course, if you can think different, okay, there is no problem. But I think that lacks a bit of this in the space. So we are very sold to Trump at this point,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But okay, people are what they are, and we can try to help, but this is how it is.
I like the more gray area now rather than the more black and white area. I personally not even
Yeah.
registered to vote. I don't do it. I used to be one of those people who was like, "You have to vote. How can you not vote? You've got to register to vote. You've got to participate." I used to be one of those people. Like, Bitcoin kind of got that out of me, where I was kind of like, "Oh, there's absolutely no way I can change this world unless I'm doing it with Bitcoin." And yoga. Those are the two things that I believe in. I can go down those rabbit holes forever. I can learn about Bitcoin forever. I can learn about yoga forever. But I've done the journalism thing. I've done the social worker thing. I've protested. I've done so many things, and then in exhaustion, you finally like give it up, and you find Bitcoin, and you go, oh, this fixes everything I tried to fix with my own manual labor over the years. Like this, this will ultimately fix everything in the world because, incentivization, everything about Bitcoin will fix the world because you fix the broken money, you fix the world. But getting to that place, you got there quicker than I did. I guarantee it. But you also had the tutelage of Andreas Antonopoulos, which was not somebody that I was into when I got started my Bitcoin journey. But like when you finally get it and you see it, because like right now I was talking to somebody one day who's like, I don't know if you get this a lot, but I hear this a lot. And I think that this isn't an American thing. I think it's a global thing because propaganda is global, right? But I was talking to somebody who was like, capitalism's bad. And I'm like, wait a minute. We're in the United States. We don't have capitalism here. We do not have a true capitalistic system. We have a mixed market economy. We have a lot of crony capitalism. So, like, when you're using that word, what do you actually mean? Because I love capitalism. I wish we fucking had it, but we don't. We have what we have, and we don't have Bitcoin as our legal tender. We don't have it as our, it's not our way of life yet. And if you bring it up to people, especially if I'm talking about Fountain or if I'm talking about Wavelake or I'm talking to Radio Detox, to normal people who still haven't heard of Bitcoin or they have an incorrect concept of it, because let's face it, most of the world has an incorrect, misunderstanding of it. It's not their
Or
fault. People
yeah,
look at you crazy. Like, why do I want to pay a musician in Bitcoin? Why do I want to listen to
yeah,
your podcast on Fountain? Why can't you just put it on Apple or Spotify? I'm like, well, let me tell you why. Because I want the artist to make money. And by the way, that money is Bitcoin. I still feel like Bitcoin's kind of a dirty word. And we try to bury it a little. We try to bury it in Runster. Which any project I'm working on, uh, Bitcoin kind of takes a back seat because we scare people so quickly. And it's because of this political climate that we live in right
yeah,
now. And I fear it's just going to be like this until we, end up with a new American president. But then something will happen in some other corner of the world too. We have other
yeah,
other presidents like Bukele who love Bitcoin, and he's
yeah,
controversial. So it's like we're still in this stage where the controversial leaders are using Bitcoin or talking about Bitcoin, because Trump talking about crypto was taken to be Bitcoin by people who don't realize that those are two different things. And I think that I know Bitcoin's bigger than it, but I think it hurt the industry just a little bit that this
yeah,
all has
for
happened
sure.
this way.
For you to know, Anonymal, we published our first full Bitcoin album. We didn't put it everywhere. We put it on Wavelake. There is
Hmm.
no Anonymal full album on Spotify. And it's very hard to explain to people because
Yeah.
people say, oh, you don't exist in Spotify, so you don't exist at all. And it's
Hmm.
very hard. Besides the political aspect of the discussion, I think there is one other thing, the psychological aspect, because people don't like to have this feeling that you know something that they don't know, that you are
Yeah.
smarter than them, so you understand these things better than them. So when you try to reach people and teach them about Bitcoin, and they have some previous experiences. And youth tend to sound like you know better. They don't like this because it seems like a temptation that why do you see why I cannot see? Why do you know what I don't know? And there is a price to be paid for you to know. And it's not something that is just an information, it's a worldview. Most of the people are very linked to these short term aspects of life. Life is what happens around me here. They don't have this global thing, this historical view. As you say, if you say, oh, America is not a capitalism, people are offended by what you say because they don't know what you're saying.
Right. They don't. They don't know what Keynesian economics is. They don't know what Austrian. They think that our economic system is the correct one. They don't realize that the Federal Reserve is unelected. They don't realize that we're printing money and that we've been causing this problem since 1971. We can't even point to 2008. We have to go all the way back to Nixon. We got to go all the way back to figure out this problem didn't start overnight. It's going to be painful to fix this problem, but we have the way to fix the problem now. We just still have a government and a central banking system, and we have central planners, and we have a Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve doesn't even know what to do right now, because this is honestly not the Federal Reserve's problem anymore. It's too big. The whole thing is just it's failing in slow motion, it seems. And then we see things happen and we're like, how have the markets not collapsed yet? And none of the economic indicators make sense. And we're like, okay, so this crazy thing happening right now with the gas, the price of gas with the Iran war, how is this not collapsing the markets? There are whole countries right now that are talking about working from home because the price of fuel is beyond what people can afford just to go to work.
Yeah, that's a crazy situation in the world. And of course, everybody is fearful of what can happen or not. But it's not because you have fear that you have to. People have this tendency to search for what they think that give us most trust or most confidence that everything is going to play out well. So they tend to accept authority, to accept that people print money out of thin air, but they don't even think about what this means.
No, they don't.
They cannot connect these two things. So it's very hard. What we have before us is an educational effort. This is why we must use culture, because if we just try to seek this kind of stuff, you reach to a wall where people are willing to listen. And so if you put a melody into it, maybe people pay more attention.
Yes.
Or if you do this weird different stuff.
This shows a practical application of Annonymal, the band, puts their music online. People pay them for it in Bitcoin. I find it and I go, oh, I got it. You're on Nostr too? I got to get you on Radio Detox. Then you're on the podcast. And then I just asked my coworker, Derek Ross, I was like, hey, I'm about to interview Annonymal. Do you have any questions for him? And Derek said, well, who's that? I was like, how do you not know? You're the Nostr CEO. I was like, I swear I thought this would be music you listen to because Derek listens. I want to out Derek. Derek has made a playlist. I can't remember if it's on Wavlake or Fountain. I think it's Wavelake. He listens to the same playlist every day while he works. And he's done this forever. He listens to the same songs every single day. I can't do that. I got to listen to a variety of things every day. I listen to as much music as I can every day. We work from home because we're a remote company. And so I was like, I did not know that you wouldn't know who Annonymal was. Because you live on Nostr and Annonymal's on Nostr. I thought you knew who everybody was, Derek. So I'm outing Derek. But no, but it's true. It's it has to reach you. And guys typically like hard rock music. I've known this forever. I worked in rock music, way back in the 90s, got my first job working in rock music. And I was like, wow, this is very male. I am in a man's world. And then, Nostr is kind of a man's world. Bitcoin's kind of a man's world. We're making inroads, us ladies, but it didn't dawn on me that Derek wouldn't know who you were or wouldn't know your music.
Yeah, but this how the things work because you're preaching Annonymal to him. And it's very interesting. I'm quite sure that probably Annonymal was the first musical group in Nostr. Of course, related to Bitcoin. Probably there was something else first before us. But we are one of the early adopters for Nostr since the beginning. I
Yeah.
remembered when Nostr came up, we had this hashtag called Horns Up for Satoshi.
Yeah.
And
Like the
in the
song.
first week of Nostr that we entered into it, this hashtag was one of the most used in the platform because there was very few people there. And I remember some people say, "What is this?" And
What
someone
are these people
replied, "Oh,
doing?
this heavy metal band here."
That's when did you okay, so when did you get into you were on Nostr before I was. I don't remember you ever not being on Nostr, and I've been on for a couple of years. So when and how did you hear about Nostr?
Well, that's a very great question. I don't know if my ADHD will make me answer it because I don't remember.
Been
But
around since it was born.
probably it was through Twitter, probably.
Mm.
And as soon as I heard the words, I got my private key in my account and I started to uploading content there. Great platform.
And
Great
you
idea.
remember the early days of Nostr and so, like, what happened after that? Did you find Wavelake or Fountain after that? Like, how did you go from Nostr to, like,
Well,
Anonymal to getting
all,
online?
all, all this kind of stuff are very well connected. Anonymal here
Mhm,
at Nostr, we have almost 5,000 nodes, almost
mhm.
100 or 100 media content. We upload videos and images and everything. And all these platforms, such as Wavelake, they came naturally, like the
Mhm.
Bitcoin wallets, like GetAlbi, or all the options there is. We can see very clearly that Nostr in the beginning was very few options about everything. So now it's a
Yeah.
lot of options about everything. This shows the potential and how creative are the people in Nostr because everybody's trying to do his own version of things. I'm not a
Yeah.
code myself. I don't write code, but I very appreciate what guys do.
Yeah, you don't have to write code now. You can use AI. You can just, do it the easy way. So what was it that made you put your music on Wavelake? And was it like a natural distrust of the traditional system or just because Wavelake came along?
Both. Because when I discovered that Nostr works as a protocol that if you upload here, it goes everywhere. So
Mhm.
I didn't search so much options because I knew if I put it on Wavelake, you can find on Fountain and everywhere.
Mm.
I think how this works. So I was happy with the experience with Wavelake when I created my account and I established the wallets to receive the payments. It was very easy to do it. In the beginning, I think it was a different situation than it is right now. Now
Yeah.
we can have external wallets. In the beginning, it was different. It was an internal
Mm.
wallet of them. And
Okay.
this came good, I think. All my wallets, when I use Lightning, are connected, so there are a few of them. So I use GetAlbi as a main source, but have
Mhm.
others. I use Primal. I like their interface to access Nostr. But it was very natural for me. I didn't give too much thought about it. But I love
Mm.
Wavelake. I would really like to have some kind of relationship with them in the future to spread the word about them to make people
Yeah.
know platform. Oh, there is this Bitcoin ban here, and you can push to the more mainstream media, this kind of stuff. That would be very hard, very nice if it happened.
That would be very cool too. Okay, so you're on
Yeah.
Nostr, you're on Wavelength, and also, yeah, your music is on Fountain as well, and so there's this ecosystem that's been springing up. We've survived, right? We've survived all the stress tests of the
Yeah.
last couple years. Have you been able to get other musicians, if you have musicians, like have you been able to get them to join us here in the land of the free and the open?
I never tried to do it, but not because I don't think this is important. But I have the difficulty of having to deal with a lot in my personal life, and Anonymous
Mhm.
takes a lot of time to build a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a bit hard to explain this
Mhm.
concept to the people because in the most cases, if you go to a normal local heavy metal band and you try to onboard them to Bitcoin, to Nostr, these concepts are complicated for most people.
Yeah.
The idea of you need to back up your wallets, you cannot assign this and here and that because you can lose everything, or you can lose your money because there is this and that. It's not a very easy thing to do, but of course, in the future, I would like to create something like a tutorial of how to do it
Mhm.
and to start talking to people. But I didn't do it yet. But that would be a good thing to do, to create a tutorial how to upload your music, how to configure your wallet, how to create
Yeah.
and to back your wallets and everything. Something like with Anonymal soundtrack behind it and everything,
Yeah.
and starting to reach out to real people. But the internet heavy metal scene is a quite unsettling, calling, challenging scene. Everybody's looking for attention. Everybody
Mhm.
wants likes and views, and oh, we want
Yeah.
to be big and everything. It's very hard to have attention to complicated issues. People want to know
Yeah.
who are you, how much money you have, how much followers you have, and if
Mhm.
you don't have too much success on this, they don't tend to give you too much opportunity to talk or to explain complicated issues. It's a
That's true.
very small thing to do at this point. Is we are in a very early stage, but it would be interesting to try to do something like this.
Yeah, like we need that. We like I grew up on Rage Against the Machine. I mean, I grew up on like, bands that had a voice and on social issues and things, and like this was a time of peace. This was the 90s. I mean, the worst thing we had was Desert Storm, and it wasn't
Yeah.
even compared to what we were going through now. It's like child's play, right? And so I grew up on that, and I just don't feel like we have bands with a voice, like you have, where you're challenging these social issues, you're challenging the world. Like you too just came out with a new album, to call out some of the things that have gone on here in the United States with, ICE and Trump and things around the world in different parts of the country too. And they name a lot of activists in their songs too. And I'm like, wow, this I didn't realize how much of this kind of subject matter was not out there in music
Yeah.
anymore, because it's become very vain, I guess. Is that the right right word to
It-
describe it?
yeah. It's a very complicated thing to describe, but I know what you're talking about. But the idea is one of the main problems is that with decentralization of the media, it is very hard to become
Yeah.
nowadays. Because back in the days when YouTube began, all the media was centralized. So if you were in the MTV or in the radio, everybody listening to you. But
Mhm.
now you have 10,000s of YouTubes all around the world and nobody listen to them because it's very small and regional and everything.
Yeah.
So it's a very complicated thing to do. This is one of the aspects. The other aspect is that rock and roll, heavy metal, this kind of stuff were mainstream, but were replaced by hip hop and rap and pop and all this kind of stuff. I think this was a bit deliberate because when you fuel the masses with more
Mhm.
aggressive songs, people tend to be more critical and violent and all this kind of stuff. So I think that probably there agreement behind the media. I don't know.
The
MTV,
very large media.
yeah, MTV turned to a different thing from one day to the other. We had all this rock and roll, this
Yeah.
punk, this metal, this everything, and then became all reality shows, dumb stuff, and all this kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
So it was very clear, this movement.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it's hard to push rock metal music to have this voice. But of course, we have the perfect sound for it. But it
Right.
demands a lot of money, a lot of management for you to become relevant, to your voice to be listened, for you to call out these things.
It does. There's a thing I found the other day. It was a Substack, and it's about this company. It's actually a marketing agency that a lot of bands that became popular in recent years, even on down to like Wet Leg, which has become a popular band, and they have a song and a popular show. And turns out they were part of this marketing scheme, and this company would, basically create fake accounts to bump up a song as soon as it comes out. A manipulation factor, that's
Yeah, that's
what you're up
very
against.
Yeah, it's very hard to fight against this because everywhere you go, you want to join a playlist and on Spotify, oh, you pay $100 and then you get in and then blah, blah, blah. And in the end, people don't listen to music as much as they did before. Nowadays, everything is very related to image. And one
Hmm.
of the aspects that is very important with this is porn general.
Hmm.
Because when you have porn as a cultural mass, that culture spreading everywhere, what people can like more than porn?
Right? What tops that for entertainment, right?
Especially when people are younger, because we are not so young. So we don't
Mhm.
have the same issue with porn that maybe the younger generations have.
True.
But when you are a teenager, what are you going to feel attached to or drawn
Yeah.
into? So they don't listen to music. They watch porn every day, all day. It's very
Yeah.
hard to compete with this. And it's
Or
not easy.
games or
Yeah.
social media. Like, I know kids who never come up for air from games, you know?
Yeah, it's not only porn. It's all
Yeah.
this social media thing, but porn is a major aspect
Oh,
because
yeah.
it is what people have the attention, this emotion drawn into. So it's very, very hard
It's
to
another
make.
extreme. I feel like that, like, people are drawn to extremes now, and you see it in the way people do makeup. Like, there's a look now. They call it the
Yeah,
full beat face because you use a blender and you beat on your face to, like, blend together all these wild colors, and then everybody has the same face, but it's this extreme, like, hyper real Kim Kardashian looking face. And then, if you look at the shows that are popular, most of them are extremely depressing, or they're
yeah,
extremely, like, criminalized, and they are extremely violent. We've hit all these, like, negative extremes, and the reality
yeah,
shows are over the top. And it's like you
yeah,
can't get attention anymore unless you go to the extreme of emotion, the extreme of bad taste. And
yeah.
then like porn is the extreme of bad taste. I mean, there's nothing
Oh,
less tasteful than that, honestly, especially in the volume that it's produced.
yeah, that's perfect. But it's very hard to fight this because you have to make people return to a more grounded and real connections and all this
Yeah,
kind of stuff. It's very hard to fight all of this. And this is why
it's
the attention economy is so damaging for people
Yeah,
because
it's very much like a what is the right way to put it? It's like all of this together dumbs people down, and it teaches them
yeah,
not to do a deep dive into deeper
yeah,
subjects like Keynesian Keynesian economics, or Bitcoin, or health, wealth, wellness, things that actually really are important. Or I think people are getting into this very black and white thinking of, like, they don't
yeah,
understand what's going on with a war. So of course they're drawn to conspiracy theories. And of course they're
yeah,
drawn to whatever the brain can bring them peace with. Like, oh, the war is because of the Epstein files is like one of many conspiracy theories out there. I'm not saying I agree one way or the other, but I notice it a lot where nobody's really critically thinking anymore. It's just like people decide, oh, this is because of that, and then everybody else agrees like lemmings. Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. And now you have this landscape of flat earthers and birds aren't real and all this, this stuff is
yeah,
happening. And I'm like, people distrust science, and they distrust, the moon land, and it just goes on and on and on. And then
yeah,
it's cope. It's people trying to understand a world that is falling apart and doesn't make sense, especially if, those of us who are a little older, and we grew up in a different world, and we're
yeah,
seeing what's going on out here now. We're like, wait a minute, we lived through, like, the fall of the Berlin Wall. You can't tell us Gen Xers anything because we were there for that. Like, we know what side people ran to. Okay, and it wasn't the socialism side.
yeah,
And the younger generations who didn't live through 1989, they don't. That's the generations who have believed the propaganda, and they're out there going, death to capitalism and this, that, and the other, and like all of this stuff that I think is just cope and propaganda, and it will go away because it's cheap and it's plentiful, and most of it is just bizarre. But, like, getting people to actually care to deep dive into a subject like Bitcoin, that's so much harder than turning on a reality show or porn or whatever.
yeah, for sure. And not only Bitcoin, I think people really are letting their lives pass through their eyes in because of nothing, because of fear,
Yeah.
lack of education, because of lack of curiosity. And with AI, things tends to get so much worse because now they done all the homework, they do everything, they resume everything. It's a very complicated future we have before us. But
Yeah.
it is true that this deep dives in whatever better direction we can point, there will be so much demand for this because all this mental health of these people are going to hell very soon. So
Yeah.
we are going to be needed to help them, to help them to
Yes.
deal with things because there will be a lot of damage in this. There is this movie called Bugonia. I don't know if you saw it.
Haven't seen that one, no.
It's a very interesting movie. It is a CEO of a company that is kidnapped by this guy that believes in this conspiracy theory that she is destroying the beast to destroy the world.
Mm.
I will not make a spoiler, but it's a very interesting concept that show us how to deal with somewhat like crazy people thinking about reality in a way that, oh, the CEO of this company is to be guilty of all the problems in the world.
Yeah.
I think everybody should take a look at this to think
That sounds
critically.
good.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie.
Now you're not in this for the money. You're in this for the ability to express, your passions, music and Bitcoin. But where do you think you would be if you weren't into Bitcoin at all? If you'd never found it and you weren't doing Anonymal and being on Bitcoin and being on Nostr and kind of finding your way and finding your audience, like where do you think you would be right now?
Well, that's a terrifying question because I cannot see myself doing any other stuff than what I do. But one thing that is very noticeable for me is that before I got into Bitcoin, I was much more afraid of losing my job, losing my income, and being poor and all this kind of stuff. I'm still poor, but I'm not afraid as much as I was anymore. When I
Mhm.
lose a job, when need to reconnect, when I need to build something new, I got this feeling that I understand things so much better now
Yeah.
because of Bitcoin, everything I learned with this, that it makes me wiser, happier, more confident. Of course, I know that I can face hardships. I know that things will not be easy for me, but I don't fear so much anymore. I don't know if you remember the V for Vendetta movie
Oh
when
wow.
movie
Yeah.
goes when V comes to Evie and he tortures her to make her understand that she must have not fear anymore. And in the end, she goes to the rain and she doesn't have fear anymore. I feel more or less like this. I'm not afraid anymore, not as much as I would be if I didn't know Bitcoin.
It's a place I wish people could get to overnight, but it is part of the journey to learn and experiment
Yeah.
and fail. And I think, having a Bitcoin and music journey that go together is fascinating because I think people come into the space like we found some people like Catherine, who's a soul singer, and we found Catherine or Catherine found us. I can't remember now, and we kind of like sucked her in, and it was because like she met Ainsley some at like a event or a concert or something, got into hanging out with Ainsley, put her music on Fountain, and suddenly in 4 days after putting a song on there, she had $40, to split between
Well,
her and her producer. And like that turned on a light. Here's somebody who's young, who's just putting music out, trying to do the Nashville thing. You got to spend time in Nashville. You got to pay your dues. You got to do a lot of writing. You got to do all this stuff. And she's making like no money, but you've got to pay, for studio time, as you well know. And so she's getting like nowhere. And then she's like, oh my God, my song is out. People are listening to it. They're giving me feedback. They're sending me money. This is an incredible experience after everything I've been through so far. And the light turned on, and so she was like, okay, I want to learn about this thing you guys do, this Bitcoin, music thing, because certainly even getting $40 is better
yeah.
than nothing because you get nothing from Spotify. But then there's this other thing that emerges where you start to meet people who like your music who you might not have met otherwise. Have you had that same experience where you start to like know people, meet people?
Yeah. OpenMike is one of these guys. I don't know
Mm-mm.
if you know him. Yes,
Oh, I know him. Yeah.
he does a great work. I love to listen to him talk. I saw one or two podcasts with him talking about his what he do. I think he's the guy behind the Tunester
Yeah.
uh,
He
hashtag.
founded
It's a
Toonster. Yeah, that's his baby.
yeah, yeah. That's fair. Very interesting guy. I don't think he's a fan of Anonymal, but he knows Anonymal. He probably
He's
has
a fan
listened
of
to.
all music. I'm going to tell him that you said he was interesting because I always tell him he's boring and he needs to spice it up when he's on stage. I always tell he's you're just like you got some points in the win column for him on this podcast today for sure. He hasn't had a win with me in a while. You've made me a liar and said he's interesting, so he'll appreciate that because he does listen.
Well, I like to listen to him because he seems a very serious person on my
He
view. But I
is.
understand what you're saying. It depends on
Yeah.
a lot of questions, but I like to listen to him. And he's very involved with this musical scene, always
Yes.
pushing new artists to come to Nostr. I always retweet or share his content with other guys. This is a thing that I always do a
Mhm.
lot. You will
Yeah.
see always anonymous sharing contents of other people.
Yeah, that's a good thing too. Like amplifying other voices, I think is so important,
Oh,
especially in Nostr. Because I think a lot we get new people in Nostr all the time, and then people always tell me, "Well, hey, it's hard for me to find people to follow and find people to interact with and find the kind of content I'm looking for." So like finding anything and reposting it for other people to see, like it actually works on Nostr though. Where like if you do it on Twitter, maybe people will see it, but if you do it on
yeah,
Nostr, people will see it.
yeah. That's the idea. I am more happy when people share something of an animal than when I get zapped.
Yeah.
This is something that
Y
I
yeah,
prefer more shared than to be zapped.
I
People tend
agree.
to be the control.
Yeah, it's either way is like a vote for what you're doing, but it's like, oh, if you
Yes.
shared it with somebody else, like that's the premium, subscription there is like, oh, you really liked me, you want to share me with your friends, thank you. That's the best part. You just had a campaign with Geyser. It was an all or nothing campaign, correct?
Yeah,
Okay, but
we didn't reach what we needed. We asked it for, I think it was $7,000 to
mhm.
help us with the record of our second album, but we didn't give too much press to it, or we didn't push it for further too hard. We did contact some people. We could not get all the money. OpenMike was one of the guys that donated to us, but
Mhm.
Anonymous always had this think we are going to do it anyway. We are recording the
Yeah,
album. Of course, if we had money, because $7,000, it would make a huge difference for us. But
yeah,
we know it's a huge amount of money for many people, and it's hard for you to ask this kind of money of someone or a group of
true,
people. So the idea is we are going to do it anyway. If we had the money, it would be easier, it would be faster, it
true.
could make us to go farther, faster, better. But if it's not the case, we are recording the album. I'm very happy with the results up here. I think it's been a very interesting journey. We are more mature than in the first album. I like our first
Mhm.
album as well. I think it is a great, solid heavy metal album. And
Mhm.
the next album, it's going to call killswitch.gov.exe, like an executable file to kill the government.
There you go. Well, that will absolutely kill it with the audience we have on Bitcoin and Nostr. They will love that. That's awesome. The kill switch. God, okay, that's good with the exe file. That's good. The nerds are gonna love that, and I have a
Yeah,
lot of Nostr nerds. It's
very
again, it's very
nerdy.
mixed, right? Like your devs, your Nostr folk, a lot of folk. It's a lot of men,
Yes.
And when I do put out like a rock podcast, I did like Detox Rocks one day and that one did rather well, and we do have great, rock music and metal music to play. We could get some more people. If anybody's listening and you're a heavy metal band, you're a heavy metal artist, singer, whatever, like what would you say? What would your advice be to them? Because you've been around for a couple years anonymous. Like, what would your sage advice be to somebody new?
Well, I think that we must be honest and true to ourselves. If you want to sing about politics or economics or Bitcoin or your emotions or your relationships or about religion or about anything, I think you must be true to it, especially in AI generation with all this music that's being uploaded every day. Only what's truly human or truly touching or truly meaningful are going to stand. So you must put all your heart into it, expecting that people will always agree or always like or always share, but be true to yourself. Make what you love. Have this fire burning in you. Because what I think of myself is to do music for me is like something that I cannot not do it. It's not possible for me to not do it. So
Yeah.
regardless of success or money or fame or whatever, I'm going to do it. And this is what it takes to someday somebody to listen. Because if you don't have this kind of internal motivation, it's very easy to step out because it's a very furious competition out there for the attention, for the money, for the glory, for the fame, whatever this means. So you have to stay centered and to know what you want to do, and doesn't matter the result. If you're happy that this is a reality, I'm very happy with the first album of Annonymal. If you too has published an Annonymal album and almost nobody had listened, oh, they will say, whoa, this is terrible. Okay. But I'm so happy with my album.
Yeah. I love it.
I don't need to compare myself with U2 or Metallica or whatever. I need to be who I am, and I love to be who I am, and I love that my music is out there for anyone that wants to listen. I think everybody should have more or less the same attitude.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine doing what you do, but then having to like publicize it on like TikTok or Instagram or like, could you imagine like having to? Because I see these artists on TikTok because I'm looking for artists on TikTok, you know, to see what they do and what I see. The ones with the big followings, they're taking requests and people are sending them gifts and it's like little animated things pop up over their heads and they're talking and they're kind of, you know, doodling on a piano or what. And then they're like, what song do you want to hear? What song do you want to hear? And if people give them a gift, then they'll play that song kind of thing. You know, like if you were at a piano bar and somebody was putting money in the jar and taking requests that way. So it's just kind of like, what did that person have to do to get the 6-figure following so that they're just going on live on TikTok and taking requests? Like the thing that amazes me about our space that we're in with Wavlake, with Fountain, with Nostr, with Bitcoin is that you're all making money and you're building an audience and you're doing it with original music. You know, you're not like taking requests to get an animated gift put on your head on TikTok so that you could sing like Simply Red or something or Extreme More Than Words. You know what I mean? Like you're getting to do the thing that you love to do the way you want to do it. And whatever money you're making because you're putting out original music and people are finding it and liking it and going, oh my God, I'm going to give him $2 right now for that. Like that's the difference to me. Aside from all the things that make TikTok sucky, like algorithms and ads and things, but like as a musician, you get to, if nothing else, if you never self-host your music or whatever, if you do nothing on the technical side, you are literally getting to build an audience and earn money for original music. And to me, that's just so powerful.
Yeah, it's a very challenging path. Annonymal made a few covers in its journey, but very few. We even just launched a Megadeth cover in My Darkest Hour. I'm very proud of our version. But there is a lot of bands that cannot connect with the people with their own material. For me, it was always about being a composer. This is a very important thing for my nature as a person. I compose. I'm the author of every Annonymal song. Of course, the other guys help me with a lyric or a melody or solos or drums, but I'm the main composer. And this is something that belongs to my nature. It's something that I cannot withhold. I must put out, and I'm very happy with the results. A lot of the most important themes in Bitcoin. If we were talking about make war unaffordable, we have a song called The Arrow of Time, where we put this image of this meme, make war unaffordable. Because this is meaningful for us, and we want more people to know, and we want to turn Satoshi's voice into music. We have this song called The Soul Behind the Mask, where we sing in first person as if we were Satoshi, because we want to give him a voice. If Satoshi could sing a song to you, what he would say. And this is our way to put it, to try to make people to listen, to see Bitcoin in a different way, in a more personal way, of Satoshi coming to you, grabbing his guitar and playing a heavy metal tune and something like this.
Is there anything else coming up that you want to do? Like, you're going to do your album, you're going to record your new album. Anything else kind of on the bucket list in this space? Things that you want to do, like do a show on Toonster, for example, since you mentioned OpenMike.
Yeah, we are going to release our first live presentation that was already recorded. It was a pocket show. I think it has a few more time than half an hour. I think it's 40 minutes, something like this. And it's going to be out soon. But of course, one of our main goals is to go to the Bitcoin conferences, starting to make concerts. It is not cheap. It's not easy. We have all this logistic going on to travel the world with 10 people. It's very expensive. It's not very easy to do.
You guys there's 10 of you? 10 of you in the band, or band and crew?
In the band, we are 6 people, but maybe you have to have a technician or somebody to work in the stage, not only the people that play in the band, but let's say that we are 6 people. It's expensive. It's not easy. There is a lot of things to consider. We are small at the time, so it's not easy for the conferences to take us. But in the future, probably we're going to meet in person, and you all guys are going to listen to Annonymal live.
That would be cool. Yeah. Are you coming to the big conference in Vegas at the end of the month?
Well, I don't know if I will be able to be in the US up to then. Maybe yes, but I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. So,
but, if I'm able to go, I will go like this, so you will recognize me, okay?
There we go. Yeah. I was like, you know what I look like. I've
perfect.
I've done radio for so long, and radio TV. Like I'm just out. I've been out there. I was never anonymous. I never had the luxury of anonymity ever in my life, and so like people know who I am. So if you see me, come say hi, because people will. Like when we did Culture Shock here in Phoenix a couple of years ago, and that was at Sam Means' warehouse. People came out of the woodwork because in Arizona we have a lot of land where people are off grid, and so a lot of the off grid Bitcoiners would come in and just kind of sneak in and be like, hey, I just want to say hi. And then like you talk to them for a few minutes, and then they'd like disappear. And it's like they would just be a ghost. And it's amazing. It was like, that could have been Satoshi for all we know. Like who was that guy? And so like, the ability to have that OPSEC and be that anonymous is kind of awesome. I don't have that. So just, just come find me. I'll be around.
Okay, deal.
That's awesome. All right. I'm looking forward to new albums, new things, and I'll put a bug in OpenMike's ear and say he's got to have Annonymal do a show, because now you have to. Like he has to now. Like, he can't.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Thank you, Annonymal. I'm so glad we got to talk today. You're so refreshing. I think that if there's anything I want people to understand about this, listening to this today, is that this is the way that you create is possible because of Bitcoin. The way you're able to say, I just want to do my thing. I just want to express myself. I just want to do my music. It's possible because of Bitcoin. And you're not doing any of the dumb stuff. Like you're not doing dances on TikTok so you can get followers. You're not dealing with radio and records, and you're not dealing with trying to get
Spotify.
yeah, like 1 million followers on TikTok. Like, you're not doing all these things that, artists hate doing this stuff. They hate being on social media. Like, you're getting to do the thing because of Bitcoin, because you have learned it and made it a part of your life. Is that a fair, am I even saying it right? Like, you probably could say it better.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm very grateful for what Bitcoin did in my life. It made me a better person. Of course, I don't think that Bitcoin is the solution for all the problems of humanity, but I'm sure that humanity would be much, much more better if everybody understood and really grabbed Bitcoin and use it and make circular economies and avoid all this crazy making money machine that we have in the world that fund wars and fund famine and fund everything that
Yeah.
it's not worth. So for me, it's an honor to be here. I apologize if I said something that somebody didn't understand, but my idea was to inspire you not only to listen to Anonymal or to follow or to share or to give me money, nothing like this. Bitcoin changed my life, and I want to retribute to it through my music, bringing more people and celebrating what Satoshi brought to us.
That's amazing. Well, thank you, Anonymal. Thanks for your time. Go make some music, and we're going to be listening to you on Wavelake and on Fountain and seeing you on
Okay,
Nostr.
deal.